Storytelling in Nigeria. According to Professor Achebe, renowned Nigerian novelist, the story is our escort. Without it, we are blind. Does the blind man own his escort? No, neither do we the story. Rather, it is the story that owns us and directs us. Hi, I'm Namdi Fred, and I'll be discussing the art of storytelling in Nigeria. This presentation is aimed at educating listeners on the nature of storytelling in Nigeria, which in itself should share similarities with the art of creating narratives in many other world cultures. Being a story writer myself, I have carried out extensive research into the art of storytelling, and I hope to share some of the results of my research with you. In this presentation, we'll talk about the history, the relevance, and trends of storytelling in Nigeria. I'll recap and then answer whatever questions you might have left in the comment section. I'll begin by shedding light on the art of storytelling in Nigeria. First, let us talk about the history. According to an article titled The Oral and Written Histories of Storytelling in Nigeria by Simeon Edosonwan and Claire Peterson in 2016, there's evidence that Nigeria was inhabited more than 13,000 years ago. This evidence itself is gathered from stories that have been handed down through centuries amongst generations. Similarly, in another article by Lavinia Scott titled West Africa's Oral History tells us a more complete story than traditional post-colonial narratives, the author seems to agree that storytelling is as old as the people itself. She states that at the end of each workday, the people of each community came together in a public space, a village square or a market square, to tell stories to each other about their daily experiences. These stories were used to pass information among the inhabitants of each community, as well as to pass important and wise knowledge down to the younger generation. The history of storytelling in Nigeria comes in two forms. One is the oral history. According to Lavinia Bennett in 2019, the oral history is was dominant during the pre-colonial era. It itself entails the passing of stories from one person to another via word of mouth. The most recent example of the oral history is the Tales by Moonlight television series, which tries to reenact storytelling scenes where an adult tells stories to a group of young children under a tree beneath the night sky. The second form of storytelling history in Nigeria is the written history. As early as the 14th century BC, Arabic became the first language to be written in Nigeria. While Arabic gained widespread publicity in the north, the colonial masters made their way into Nigeria through the south. They came with their own stories, which depicted Nigerians and Africans at large as a people without culture and civilization. And these stories were largely told and recorded to justify their colonialism and exploitation. In the 1930s, however, according to Simeon Edosonwan and Claire Peterson's article, Nigerian stories began to rise up to counter these ethnocentric stories from the colonial masters. One of the greatest examples of stories that have been used to counter ethnocentrism is Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, which in itself was written in reply to Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Now let us talk about the relevance of storytelling in Nigeria. Storytelling itself remains an invaluable part of the Nigerian society. According to Simeon Edosonwan and Claire Peterson in 2016, storytelling has been used and is still constantly used to inspire sociocultural change. Matters like gender equality, LGBTQ acceptance, intolerance, and other forms of ethnocentric issues have been brought to the fore through the use of stories. Also, in Nigeria, stories are used in education and instruction. Professor Cora Ogatuchi of the Central Oregon Community College states that stories serve an important ethical purpose. This is largely accepted as a general notion worldwide, as the benefits of storytelling to children and adults can never be overemphasized. Finally, we'll talk about the trends that stories have followed in contemporary Nigeria. Over the years, we have noticed that stories in Nigeria have been told to reflect social realities. In an article titled Digital Diaspora, Building a New African Storytelling Tradition by Senongo Akpen, we are made to see that stories at different points of Nigeria reflected different times in the Nigerian society reflected the realities of those eras. For instance, stories told in the 1960s often captured what it was to live in Nigeria during the Civil War and just after it. Stories in the 1980s and 1990s themselves told of living in a Nigeria under the military dictatorship. However, in recent times, stories have assumed a more individualistic approach. According to an article titled Nigeria by Hofstede Tice, the Nigerian society is still largely collectivist, as Nigeria ranks low on the individualistic spectrum. This means that most individualist stories should be encouraged so that we can balance our individualism with our collectivism. Now, let us summarize all we have discussed. We have talked about the art of storytelling, including its history, its relevance, and the trends it has followed in recent times. If you recall, stories used to be oral before they became written. Over the years, stories have been used to inspire social change as well as in education and instruction. And the trend of stories have followed a more socially reflective to a more individualistic path. Indeed, stories are actually a light that guide us on the right path rather than and stop us from stumbling into the strong of past. Thank you.